Good morning, NFC East. Good morning, Philadelphia Eagles fans. Your Philadelphia Eagles are going to the NFC Championship game for the second time in the last 5 seasons. For the Dallas Cowboys, they will not be going to the NFC Championship game, Tony DeShields. As a matter of fact, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks left in these playoffs were not born when the Dallas Cowboys last made an NFC Championship game.
Man, oh man. Jeff Kerr, man, I was looking forward to this show with you this morning, my man. You have no idea. You see how things just happen to come full circle? Like, do you see how sometimes all you have to do is just sit back and things will happen as God planned it? And it just so happened that it was written, it was preordained, it was destiny that the Cowboys will fall off a cliff, actually. And the Philadelphia Eagles will continue to soar high. And they're going to continue to soar higher and higher and higher. But look, we have much more to discuss. This is going to be a detailed dismantling of the Dallas Cowboys this morning. A very detailed dismantling, Jeff, but I can't do it without you.
This is what I love about you, Tone. And this is what I love about the city of Philadelphia. The Eagles win a playoff game by 31 points, and we'd rather talk about a team that the Eagles weren't going to play losing. It's hilarious, honestly, how that dismantling by the 49ers just it crushed Cowboys fans' soul. I saw a very quiet bird app last night. I didn't have to hear the Cowboys beat the Eagles with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, or the Cowboys are going to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, which, by the way, for the sake of this show, would have been awesome.
Would have been awesome. Would have been great.
It would have been a great week. But we have to be realistic here with this Cowboys team. I'm going to give it to them. I think their defense showed up last night, and I was happy they did, because it just confirms my belief that if you put Brock Purdy under pressure and when you have an actual pass rush, you can stop the San Francisco 49ers. But we'll get into that all week. Dak Prescott did not show up last night. I don't want to hear Tony Pollard was injured, any of that. Dak Prescott looked like he always does in the divisional playoff round. Not good.
Man, and I think the reason obviously we're talking about the Cowboys first because recency bias, there was the game last night, so on and so forth. So I think that's why it's so near and dear to my heart right now. Obviously, we'll get into the Eagles because that was just a dismantling as well. But you're right. Dak Prescott did what Dak Prescott does in those particular moments. And it's wild because I personally consider Dak Prescott to be a top 10 quarterback. Not many people agree with that. Some people say 12, 11, 13, whatever. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. Now, he has deficiencies like a lot of guys. A lot of people compare him to, and I want to get your point on this, right? A lot of people compare him to Kirk Cousins. And they basically say he's Kirk Cousins with the best PR machine behind him. And it makes you think, is Dak Prescott on par with Kirk Cousins? Are they the same quarterback? A quarterback that will get their numbers, they will win games for you, but when it matters most, when you need them to make that throw, when you need them to be the leader of the ship in the biggest of biggest moments, they fail. You tell me, Jeff. Are Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins in the same vein?
I hate to agree with you, Tone, but you are right. In a sense, you are. They're different quarterbacks. They put up the numbers, but it's a bunch of empty calories at the end of the day. And I said all week, if Dak Prescott played like he did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and against the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 16, the Dallas Cowboys would be playing the Eagles this week. He wasn't close to that. He threw 2 horrible picks. I thought it was fitting. The first play, Tony Pollard does not play in that game. By the way, shout out to Tony Pollard. Hell of a year.
Yeah,
high ankle sprain. Yeah, it sucks because guy had a hell of a year. I hate to see that happen to him, especially with free agent year. But I digress. That throw after Tony Pollard went out was just bad. He makes too many bad decisions when his team doesn't need them. He threw 2 picks against the 49ers defense. That team could not move the ball consistently downfield as a result of that. And look, I don't even think Dak Prescott was the biggest problem with the Cowboys yesterday. I could go on and on about Mike McCarthy. I could go on and on about Dalton Schultz, the offensive line. By the way, I got to bring this up. What the hell was that last play?
That looked like something out of Madden. I'll be honest. That looked like something you break out, you know what? That looked like one of those long, like the longest yard plays, right? The replacements. That seems like one of those plays that you see in a movie, right? And it just so happens to work. This is not a movie. See, this is the problem with the Dallas Cowboys. This is not a fashion show. This is not a movie. You know, you're not going to just whip out plays that we've never seen before and say, "Oh, hey, bring out the wishbone," or bring out the big guns. It's like it's so fitting. See, the Cowboys are Hollywood. They're Hollywood without the flash. They're Hollywood. They're Hollywood without the stars on the Walk of Fame. They're just there. You know, they spend the most money on the biggest productions, but it flops. You know what I mean? They're like those kind of guys in Hollywood. They spend so much money on the special effects and the CGI, and we got to get this big name actor, and we got to break the bank, and so on and so forth. We got to spare no expense. And the movie flops. No one goes to see it because it sucks.
So they're the Michael Bay of the NFL to you. I had to get that out there for you.
Oh, man, Jeff.
You were just describing the last two Transformers movies not named Bumblebee.
Transformers, don't get me started on the Transformers franchise. It kind of, after Shia LaBeouf left, I kind of, I give them grace for like the third one, but I don't know. But again, man, back to football. Tony Pollard going down, that sucks. But he's going to have a lot of time to rest. He's going to have a lot of time to get right. And then, like you said, the defense showed up. Man, Ezekiel Elliott, they got to do something with that contract fast. They got to off him. They got to do something because it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work, man. Was
this creeping in your mind during that game yesterday? Didn't you kind of want to play Dallas just because they were so banged up? And you could easily watch that game and say, I don't know how any of these two teams are beating the Eagles.
That's the thing, man. Like, people are really big on momentum, right? They talk about it all the time. And they were concerned about the Eagles' momentum. Oh, the Eagles had a rough go of it at the end of the season. Now, what are they going to do going into the playoffs with the teams that are already in playoff mode? The Giants, I don't know, has Daniel Jones arrived?
The Red Hot Giants, who were 3-5-1 in their last 9 games.
The Red Hot Giants, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And you know what? The rest of you guys deserve this. I'm pointing at all you guys. I'm not going to say any names, but I'm pointing at all you guys that propped up Daniel Jones, Tiki, what is it, Barber? Tiki Harbor. I forgot his name. Yes, I'm being disrespectful this morning, Jeff. I'm being very disrespectful this morning. They propped up Daniel Jones just high enough so he can crash.
I love hearing predictions. I've been wrong. I was wrong this weekend. I was definitely wrong on the Bengals. I feel bad shortchanging. And it's funny because I went on a Cincinnati radio station Sunday morning. I go on their pregame show every week, and they said, "Do you really think the Bills can beat them?" And I said, I said, you guys are convincing me to change it, and I didn't. I said Buffalo's going to win by a field goal. They got whomped. But anyway, I digress.
The Bengals were going to win.
Yeah, so Mike Gill, who we're going to have on there. But I will say this, Tone DeShields. I don't even blame Daniel Jones for it. The Giants were just outclassed. The Eagles have more talent than them across the board. That's why I couldn't believe people were picking the Giants. I'm like, don't tell me you know football. You're picking the New York Giants. I'm sorry. The Eagles would have had to turn the football over 5 times to lose to the Giants. I was telling people this on Friday night. I was hanging out with a bunch of friends. I said, you guys do know the Eagles scored 5 times in Week 18 before the Giants scored once, right? The Eagles were just better than them in the trenches, which is where I always judge playoff games, by the way, in case you want to know. The Eagles were just better than them on the offensive line, on the defensive line. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, 52 combined pass blocking snaps. No sacks, no pressures, no pressure rate, nothing. Zero, zilch. Jalen Hurts had all day back there. The Eagles just grounded and pounded their way to DeShields. 268 yards in a playoff game. The only time they rushed for more than that was the 1948 NFL championship. Sorry, 1949. Steve Van Buren had 196 yards.
Right. You're all right, man. Who's counting? It's all accurate anyway.
That was a beatdown, Tone. That was a beatdown. I got to watch a beatdown live, and I'll tell you what. Oh, it was Darius Slay bringing the juice Saturday night, man.
I saw your post, man. You were in the locker room, and Darius Slay had the vibes going. He had the vibes going, man.
I got a fun story on that, by the way. So during the interview, I asked him like two, 3 questions, right? I get to the 4th one, and I did probably the stupidest thing any reporter could ever do with him, and he knows I know better. I called him Darius.
Oh, man,
and he's like, come on, Kerr, you go by your last name. You forget already? Say, how long you know me? And I'm like, oh, here we go. And after that, oh, man, was he laughing. He's like, oh, I had to get you on that. I'm like, you'll be getting on me for that for weeks. He's like, it's Slay. It's Slay. I'm like, I know. And like, Giants fans were all in their feels because Darius Slay decided to talk again. Oh, he got beat by Kenny Golladay. Who cares? What did Kenny Golladay do Saturday night in a game that mattered?
Kenny Golladay was passing out water bottles.
Are you sure he was even doing that? I didn't even see him on the sideline.
Yeah, listen. I'll tell you this, Jeff. Right? This is what I know. This isn't opinion. This isn't conjecture. This isn't hearsay. I'm about to say facts to you. Eagles 26 first downs to the Giants 13. Third down efficiency. Eagles were 10 for 14 to the Giants 5 for 13. Eagles ran 69 total plays to the Giants 52.
Nice.
416 total yards for the Eagles to the Giants 227. Average 6 yards per play, 148 yards passing. Well, a little more than that, but listen, it doesn't matter. It was an exhibition on the ground. It was an exhibition. Dame Jones threw an interception to James Bradbury. Loved it. Serendipity at its finest. Life comes full circle, like I told you. 268 rushing yards, man. On 44 rushing attempts, average 6 yards a carry. Let's be totally frank about this. If Saquon didn't break that big run, this would have been a domination. It was a domination, but Saquon had that 39-yard run. It helped the averages out, so on and so forth. It helped his numbers. But if you take away that 39-yard run, I'm not a mathematician, Jeff, but if I'm not mistaken, 61 minus 39, you're the numbers god. Do that math for me, man.
61 minus 39? That's 22.
22 rushing yards. Without that big run, 22 rushing yards. This was pure domination in the highest of highest orders. And I have to ask you, do you think this was the most dominating playoff game that we've seen just by the mere physicality of it, just by the mere mismatch?
Well, I think it was fitting. It was on the 5-year anniversary of certain NFC Championship game. The Eagles won 38-7. By the way, another fun fact about that game, the Eagles won 38-7 on the 5-year anniversary of an NFC Championship game. They won 38-7. And they were also 10 of 14 on third down in that game and 10 of 14 on third down Saturday night. That is eerie. So in terms of beatdown, I don't know, Tone. The 2017 NFC Championship game, I thought that was a beatdown amongst beatdowns, and they were losing that game.
Let's compare it to the games we had this year, right? Because that was really my question. I should have been a little bit more specific. Out of all the games we saw this year, out of every playoff matchup we've seen this year, did that Eagles-Giants game just look like just a pure mismatch, just pure domination in the highest order?
It reminded me of when they played Tennessee. They were just the better team. Bottom line. But we weren't sure if they were the better team against Tennessee yet. And, of course, Tennessee didn't win a game the rest of the season. I mean, maybe that's the effect of the Eagles. But this is one of those games where, and you could tell in the third play of the game, Dallas Goedert threw that stiff arm. You're like, oh, you better not get off the bus. Mm-hmm. You're going to regret getting off the bus. It just felt like that game. I could tell you, Tone, in pregame warmups, Jalen Hurts and Darius Slay were just so fired up. Like it was like in Rocky Balboa. The beast is coming out. When Antonio Tarver breaks his hand and Rocky just 50-year-old Rocky just goes full tilt on him. That's how it felt. They were just waiting for that team to blink on Saturday night. And once that game started, I loved how the Eagles got the ball first. I forget who got the ball first.
The Eagles got the ball first. I told you, Jeff. I said it. I told you. I said, look, that's what needs to happen. And Brian Daboll and those boys made a grave mistake allowing the Eagles to touch that ball first. Grave mistake.
I was thinking about that too. I was like, you know what? I kind of want them to get the ball first now. I want them to get the ball first. I wanted to go down the field. I wanted to score. And they did that. And I actually thought the Giants lost the game when Daboll went for it on 4th and 8 at midfield and they didn't get it.
I agree. That was also another great mistake. I felt like in that game, when I saw Daboll go over that 4th down, I immediately thought to myself, "Oh no, this game's over. They're just not ready for this." He's trying to do any and everything to give his team some level of juice, some level of hope in this thing, and to go for it on 4th down that early, man. See, the game was getting out of hand so quickly, so fast for these guys, and everything that I said needed to happen happened. I said you have to go through Dallas Goedert. You have to feed Dallas Goedert. He's gonna open things up. He's a physical mismatch for any and everybody on that field. We saw that on the second or third play, like you mentioned. And then leaning on the running game, right? Feeding Miles Sanders. And man, Kenny Gainwell, talk about an emergence. This is his emergence for the Philadelphia Eagles right now is perfect because now you have to really hone in on that running game. It's not one of those situations where, okay, shut down Miles Sanders and okay, the running game is neutralized. No, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, and then you sprinkle in a little Boston Scott right there. That sounds like doesn't that sound like the perfect seasoning company? Like we all heard of Mrs. Dash, right? But sprinkle a little Boston Scott on there. That sounds good. I like the way that sounds.
I'm just going to say, there's one thing I learned from this game, and I already kind of knew it. Nick Sirianni reads and hears everything. Between the whole comments to WIP about the whole Jonathan Gannon thing too, I'll tell you what, no one wanted Boston Scott to score a touchdown Saturday night more than Nick Sirianni. He literally just threw it in Wink Martindale's face and said, oh, he's not a giant killer. Nick Sirianni was on another planet last night in terms of he wanted all the smoke Saturday night. Every single bit of it, he wanted.
Definitely. And you know what, man? I cannot wait to hear the smoke that Mike Gill has for these Dallas Cowboys. I can't wait to hear his observations. This is going to be really exciting. Our guy just got here into the virtual green room. So we're going to hit our first break. You guys have been locked in on Good Morning NFC East. And my, is it a good morning? He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your boy, Tone DeShields II. Next up, we have Mike Gill. Keep it locked, you guys. You do not